awake, he was still doing good, but his heart condition was so bad he didn't stay awake very well.
Well, I say this all, hi, Barbara. I say this all the time. When you think you're hung the moon or you've done something special, look behind you and see whose shoulders you're walking on.
Absolutely, Don. Absolutely. So I remember I was at the meeting, when Doc Orr and his wife were there, and he stood up and said, here is a check to pay off the mortgage on the MSNI warehouse.
You were there?
For $75,000. That's a nice check to write.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Don was wondering where you were.
I have to log.
Good morning, Barbara. It seems.
Good morning. I'm going to blip out. I may blip out for a minute here.
Frozen up, though.
There we go. Had to get on on my booster.
Steve, you're awful quiet.
Sometimes it's better off that way.
Daddy-o.
What was it Will Rogers said? Better to be silent and appear to be a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
That's good.
Hi, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Morning, Andy.
Good morning. I want to ask each of you a question. I just don't know where to start.
I'll mute.
I'll mute.
Well, you're on mute, so we can't hear you, even if you're asking us a question. There you go.
Don said, mute, Andy, mute. Isn't that what you said? Can you hear me?
Oh, we would go on mute, not that you're on mute.
Oh, I got you. Well, Bill, are you on your way for a district governor application?
I did apply and I was considered, and a wonderful lady from Bartlesville was chosen instead of me, but I'm pleased to have participated and my wife is delighted.
She's a pro-woman person, I understand.
Andy, he had an incredible interview. I can tell you that. To sit in on those interviews has been a privilege of mine for over 20 years, and I can tell you he had a great interview.
And it was my great privilege to be interviewed. It was I had a lot of friends and acquaintances in that group doing the interviewing.
Mm.
Well, Bill, we won't be able to see the induction of Jeff from last night because when I came home, my computer was closed, of course, and I didn't open it back up till this morning, and it has to convert it from whatever it records it in to a format that works for the PC. So it's busy converting in the background, but it won't be ready till next week.
Well, it's okay. Meeting today, I believe.
He what?
Be on the meeting today and we'll introduce him and
Yeah,
we get
I've got a slide for you to introduce Jeff. Seems like a nice guy.
He is a tremendously great guy. He's been a really good friend and a lot of help to me, and we've served together for probably 6 years, at least five, I think probably 6 years on the board of our homeowners association. So he's a neighbor, and he's done some neat things, and he's just so easy to get along with, and everybody really likes him. So
he just fit right in last night, so that was great.
Oh, he's very
Yeah.
comfortable with the club. He attended a couple of meetings, so. Anyway, you asked me my question, Andy. You had questions for everybody.
Well, Barbara, I haven't put any minutes for last week's chat together. Do you know if anyone on your side?
Yes, and I sent you for your review, and I didn't know which email address. I sent it to 2 email addresses so you would get it. I put them together the very next day, or maybe that evening. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we put together the notes that we had combined, and then I asked Bill if he'd put them together and send them to you.
I should have gotten them.
Yes, you should have. Well, if you haven't, I'll resend them, Andy. Yeah, I did do that.
I'll send you an email of me.
Okay, I appreciate it. That way it'll be sure. I just used what was in my computer, and it had 2 different email addresses for you, and I just sent them to both of them. But
Yeah.
apparently it wasn't the right one.
Well, the Cox one I haven't had for several years, but
Okay, I haven't had Mac Cox for several years, and that was one of them that I sent it to. So anyway, yeah, I'll be happy to resend that to you.
thank you.
Hey, Dr. Scott.
Hey guys, how are you this year?
Good, how
Happy
are
New Year,
you?
everybody. We're
God,
good.
you haven't changed a bit since the last time I seen you.
I feel like
Except you're wearing a feed bag now.
That's right. I feel like Mr. Wilson. All you can see is my eyes.
Good morning, all. Can you hear my mic?
Yes, I can, Jack.
Jack?
All right.
Can hear you.
Hit me again. You can still hear me.
I can still hear you.
Smack him around. Carolyn, are you in New Mexico or Tulsa?
I'm still in Tulsa. I'll probably be here another couple of weeks before I go.
Yeah, we're going to try to get over to New Mexico and teach the students in a couple of weeks ourselves, get towards the end of January.
Well, if you're ever up by Angel Fire in the mountains, come see me.
Will do.
Got lots of room.
Yeah. It's a lot warmer down south though.
I know it is. It's cold up there, but it's nice.
It's beautiful. Everybody's New Year is going good for them so far, I hope.
So far, so good.
Hanging around waiting for a vaccine.
Yeah,
I've got my first one. I'm getting my second one Monday.
great.
Good for you.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks for
Good
joining.
morning. How is everybody?
Are good.
Yeah.
Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Computer's working, so that's a good sign.
Jeff, I don't see your Rotary membership form behind you on the wall.
Uh-oh, see, I'm already in trouble. There.
There you go.
That's a good fix.
Scott, what hospital are you in at the moment?
I'm just now leaving St. Francis.
Okay.
Got 4 babies there, and so none of them are COVID. Last week I had three babies in with COVID moms.
Oh no.
Really?
So yeah, we're having a boom in COVID moms.
Wow.
So yeah, all the C-section moms are getting tested for COVID, and a lot of them don't even know they have it, and all of a sudden they get thrown into isolation, and then we've got to get all dressed up and go see our babies.
Wow. Do the babies get it?
No, believe it or not, there's a sense of antibodies. Hang on just a second. Take my mask off here. The only time I take my mask off is I either get in my truck or I don't even take it off at the office anymore. So I get in the truck, I can take it off, and if I get in my house, I take it off, and that's about the only two places I don't have a mask on. And we'd run the N95s, so that's I've gotten the N95s for all my employees and myself. So this stuff is just not. We don't have our hands around this disease whatsoever, and it's not discriminating by any means. So I tell you one thing about the disease that's very interesting, and that is what it has done to our pediatric population. It's a lot of our pediatric patients. I've probably had over 100 now of my patients positive for COVID, but they're just not symptomatic. A lot of them are being tested just because grandma came up positive and grandma was watching them the other day, and then the child's positive, but they're not symptomatic. They don't have cough. They don't have a fever. Both my physician partner and my nurse practitioner have both had it. They've been out for the last 10 days, so I kind of feel like last man standing.
Wow. But the babies are not getting it.
Babies aren't getting it. We suspicion, we don't know this, but we suspicion mom has picked up the virus and she's building antibodies to the virus. And as they build antibodies, they pass those along to the baby. So it's much like measles, mumps, and rubella. We pass those antibodies on to the baby to prevent disease in the baby. And so every time I test all my babies before they go home, so that the exposure for at least 2 days, if not 3, if they're C-section.
Interesting.
Negative. I haven't had one infant come up positive.
Not to talk too much about that subject, but the past director of Rotary International, Greg Yank, passed away last night from the coronavirus.
Oh.
Don, Judy Klingensmith passed away too, but I don't think she had the virus. She just hadn't been well for a long time.
Who's that?
Judy Klingensmith. Ray's
Oh,
wife.
really?
Yeah, but she hadn't been well for a long time.
I know that. Yeah.
You may be able to help here a bit. Didn't Ray dedicate the Rotary deal downtown? Didn't he speak at the dedication of that? Do you know?
I don't think he was the one. I'm sorry. There was a president who came, but I don't think it was Ray.
Well, Ray wouldn't have been president. Ray was president when Wallace was district governor. Wallace Williams, does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, all right.
Okay, my clock is chiming. As soon as it quits chiming, I gotta get the bell here. Hold on. Oh, that didn't sound very good. Let's do that again. Oh, much better, much better. Okay, we are there. Let me bring up my presentation. Jack Fries, you are our Rotarian of the day. So if you would so kindly lead us in the prayer and the pledge. Jack?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning, Father. We're gathered together in your name and in the name of Rotary for fellowship and friendship and service. You have taught us peace. You have taught us love. And these are the tenets of Rotary. Please be with us, inspire us, keep us, help us, protect us, and help us move forward in your name, in your way, and in the Rotary standards. Amen.
Pledge.
Jack, are you gonna lead us in the pledge?
Yes, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Miss Megan, Sergeant at Arms, it's
All
you.
right. Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody.
Morning.
Yay. Hope everybody's doing well. Got 2021 all started out well. All right. Do we have any guests? I'm looking around. Anybody have any guests? Anybody bring anybody? We have a lot of people here. This is great. All right. Well, that being said, any anniversaries or birthdays? No anniversaries or birthdays? We've had 3 weeks off.
Bill Lawson has a birthday on Friday,
Okay.
and I've already given my quite sizable check to. For 73 years on Friday.
Whoa.
Happy birthday. You don't look a day over 50.
Oh, well, thank you. It's the haircut.
It's the haircut. That's right. All right. Anybody else? Any other birthdays or anniversaries? None? Even since we've been gone, since 2 weeks? No?
Well, there are a couple of other birthdays.
Oh,
I think.
Carolyn. Carolyn.
Well, I just got a question. We do have one guest.
Oh, we do.
That's Brian Hendricks.
Oh, hi, Brian.
I didn't
Welcome.
look for him, and now I see him. Hi, Brian. So
Okay.
glad you're here.
Hi,
He's
thank
joining-
you.
he's
Have me
joining
back.
Sunrise again. He's back.
Yeah. Well, Brian, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Brian Hendricks, resident in Jenks. I work for the YMCA of Greater Tulsa. I'm the executive director of the Tandy YMCA. 2 young kids. One's 1 year old and the one in there 4. And I guess that's it.
That's awesome. Well, welcome. We're so glad you're back. This is great.
Really proud of Brian because, he was in Sunrise back in 2020 in the beginning of the year and had to leave. And he reached out to us, and Gifty is his sponsor, and he's coming back, and we're just absolutely thrilled.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay. Glad to have you back. All right. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to move on to Happy Bucks because it seemed like we didn't have any, or were there any other birthdays? Yes, Kirk, let's go.
Well, I was going to Happy Buck.
Okay, go to Happy Bucks.
Kathy and I survived COVID. We had it before Christmas, and it was miserable. It wasn't the worst Christmas we ever had, but boy, it rated right up there with it. We're both back to work. We just can't get our energy up. It's kind of like our doctor said it has lingering effects like a mononucleosis, and we're both going to work, but we're both going to bed as soon as we get home. So, and I'll send my happy buck to Mike. I know he's on here. There he is. I sent him my dues last week, so now I'll send in a happy buck check. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
All right. Anybody else looking for some Happy Bucks? Ellie, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna back the train up to birthdays. And,
Okay.
my mom turned 98 yesterday.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. You all met her many years ago when she came down to Tulsa for a visit, and she went to her first ever Rotary meeting. I told her I told you all that you should stop by and table and say hello and tell her how wonderful I am. And I appreciate those of you who did. Anyway, we had a birthday Zoom party, and my sister had a cake and lit candles, and we all sang. We had 50 people on the call. And It was a lot of fun. I'm real grateful that she's
That's awesome.
party and smarter and sharper than I am.
98. Wow, that's fantastic. Yes, Joy.
Well, my happy buck is that I have a niece. Her name is Sydney, and she is pregnant with twins. And she was in the hospital for a week, nearly lost the twins. She's now at home on bed rest. But anyway, it's going to be a long January, February, and March. We're just trying to keep those babies in the uterus for as long as possible. So anyway, but I have a happy buck. We've had one miracle so far, and if she can stay on bed rest, that'll be another miracle. She's just type A as her Aunt Joy.
Yes. Oh, that's hard. Yes, Martha.
Yes, I have a happy buck. My oldest son and his wife just announced to us that they're going to have a baby in July.
All right.
We didn't think we were ever going to be grandparents. This is our first grandchild, and my husband turned 70 in February, so we have waited a long time for this baby. We're very excited.
Oh, that's so great. Congratulations. Yay. All right.
I've got a happy buck.
Okay.
This is Scott, and my son, the last of the 5, proposed to his girlfriend over the holidays, and we have a wedding in March. So they've known each other for about 5 years now, and he graduated from OSU, Go Pokes, over December. He has a job, which is, a miracle in and of itself, right out of college, which is great, especially in this world of COVID. And he'll start on Monday, and they want to get their life going. So we're really excited for him.
That is great. Congratulations. That's a quick turnaround for a wedding.
And she's not pregnant.
That's good. Was it? Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
Megan, can
Yes.
I wave a buck in the air?
You can
I
wave it
got
back
to
in
sit
there.
in with Andy and other members of the foundation board last week on the first meeting for me to attend. And you think you know everything in Rotary until you do something special with Barney or Andy, and it was a real good meeting, and thrilled to be on that board. Thank you all.
Anybody else?
I have a happy buck. Oh,
Okay. Who was that?
sorry, this is Cole. Well,
All right, Cole.
I'm sorry. I don't know who I'm talking over. I have been gone for a couple weeks. A lot of you called me, and I just want to say thank you. Kevin had a little car accident and totaled his truck and ended up having to have some surgery. And a lot of Sunrisers reached out to me, and I just wanted to say thank you. Our family kind of had a go of it for about 6 weeks. We went from COVID to car accident. So we just wanted to say thank you, and we appreciate you guys.
Wow. Well, we're glad you're okay, Cole. That's awesome. Glad you're back.
How's Kevin doing?
He's doing really good. We were lucky where the break was, and the way the surgery was is he doesn't have to have physical therapy. He just has to do things at home. But other than that, he went back to work this week on Monday, and he seems to be doing really well. It's healing really well. We bought a new car last week to replace the truck. So, everything's moving along.
Yeah.
Megan, Bill Lawson.
Yeah.
Jim Milburn, did you get my email this morning?
No,
Must be on
Bill.
mute.
No, Bill, I'm not tuned in. I did not see it.
Okay, well, at any rate, then my happy buck is I'm pleased to announce that Kathy Milburn became an honorary member at our board meeting last night. So from January to June 30th, and I sent you an email, but I didn't know if you'd had a chance to read it yet.
Thank you, Sunrisers. Thank you, Bill Lawson, for that initiative. And we are humbled and well in this new year. We thank God.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, anybody else?
Hey, Megan, there's Kyden Creekpaum.
Yes, I think he's our speaker.
Hello, everyone. Good to
today.
be here.
Welcome.
Morning, Kyden.
All
Thank you.
right.
Good to see so many familiar
Yeah.
faces.
Welcome, welcome. Good. Okay. Well, on that note, if there are no more, I totally dropped the ball in this new year for a joke this morning. So if anybody has a joke, I welcome it, or we'll just move on. I apologize. The joke's on me. I woke up and went, oops. So I'll have one, I'll have double
Megan,
next week.
Megan, this is the first time we can actually look and say hindsight is 2020.
There we go.
That's good. That's good.
Mhm. There's your joke for the morning.
Okay, well, we will go back to sharing my screen. And
Why can't we say hindsight is 2021?
well, because it's not yet. Okay, Carolyn McGay and Linda Ortega and Bill Lawson and I went out to, we wanted to thank Herb for all he's done for Sunrise Rotary. So we had instead of a plaque to put on the wall, we had this nice little globe thing from the Russell Hampton people that we had a plaque engraved on that, thanking Herb for all his service that he's done to Sunrise, to the district, and to Rotary International. And as you can see, he wasn't expecting us and he's not dressed up. So we know that we surprised him, but it was just nice to see him and Carol. We didn't stay very long. We were all wearing our masks except for that picture that Linda took of Herb. So that was real nice. It was nice to see Herb and Carol. So I want you all to be able to share in that. Okay, we have a new member, Jeff Roberts. In just a minute, I'm going to ask Bill Lawson to introduce him. But I want to welcome back, I guess Megan's not on the call this morning, but she and Carol Orr are both coming off of their leaves of absence, and they will be regular Sunrisers for this next semester. And we're delighted to have both of them participating again. So Bill, do you want to introduce Jeff?
I'd be pleased to introduce Jeff again. Jeff visited our club a couple of years ago now, twice, and found himself not in a position to join at that time. But last night we inducted Jeff Roberts into the club. Jeff, I've known Jeff for 5-6 years now. We serve on board of directors for our homeowners association. He's a neighbor. And anytime I have some heavy lifting or something to do where I really need help, I ask Jeff and he comes right over, and just a delightful guy with a delightful family. So at any rate, please welcome Jeff Roberts. And I'm sure Jeff would like to say something too.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Bill. As pointed out, he didn't say this. He's very nice. I'm kind of like red green. If they can't find you smart, they might as well at least find you handy. So I can carry and tote things. Now I want to say, as a Bill, I really appreciate you nominating me and sponsoring me, and it was an honor for me to be inducted last evening into Rotary, and I look forward to meeting and getting to know everybody and learning and actually becoming a Rotarian. And I guess, Bill, a little bit about myself. Live in South Tulsa, close to Bill. I work for a company called Branch Communications. We work in wireless telecommunications, mainly on the infrastructure side. My wife, Laurel, and I, we have 2 children. We have son Noah, who is a freshman at OU this year, and daughter Lily, who is a 7th grader at Jinx. And so again, just thank you guys, and it's an honor to be here with you guys.
It's great to have you as a new member. So thank you, Jeff. Okay, back to the slideshow. As you know, we've been, Stan Grogg started the work to get donations to honor Don Walker in some sense. And there've been several suggestions. And so what we decided last night at our board meeting is we're going to have a few board members from Sunrise Board and a few from the Foundation Board. And they're going to get together and we're going to figure out what's the best way to honor Don. We have over $10,000 and probably we'll get a little bit more for that. So we're going to be able to honor him in a significant way. And once that committee comes up with a recommendation, then we'll present that to the full membership. So you'll know what we're doing to honor Don. Okay, Don Lawson sent me this. I thought this was interesting. This isn't anything we have to do at all, but Rotary International now has a like firefighter of the year or first responder or whatever. They have a special medal for people who've gone over and beyond their regular duty in serving their community. So this is just something to keep in the back of our minds. If there's someone that we want to honor in a significant way, we have a way of doing that. And I think it's a beautiful beautiful license there, beautiful design. So just to let you be aware that that is out there. And if you have any ideas, just let us know. And Gifty is going to announce later in January, the glasses drive. So start collecting your glasses, the old glasses that you have around that, like me, your eyes have changed and you've had to get new prescriptions. And what you can do with them is I've talked to VJ and we can drop them off at MSNI. They have a staff person there Tuesdays or Thursdays, either one, from 10 to 2. So if you've got those glasses, since we're not meeting in person and you want to get them out of your house, just drop them off to MSNI. And that would be great. Okay, I think it's time for Mike Bibby.
All right,
Our
can you
pot.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and you're set up to share a screen?
Oh, yeah, hold on a second. I always forget that. Yeah, you should be able to now.
Okay, I don't know if people can see me doing this, but we've got 23 tickets this morning and I have pulled one out. And we're up to $404. And can you see that? That's Ellie.
Oh,
So,
again, she's
Ellie.
the luckiest woman in the world.
Well, I'm sure Barney would say that. So, okay, Ellie, there are only a few tickets left. Are you there?
Good. I am.
Okay, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16, 17, 18.
I want to go 4, please.
Okay, let me go off share screen. And okay, I don't know if you can see this. Here's ticket number 4. And what is that? That's the Joker.
The Joker.
That's the Joker.
Woo!
Well, I am delighted somebody finally won this, and your check is in the mail.
Thank you. Heavy.
That is great.
Steve Kerr, be sure to note that in the next fundraiser.
For sure. Yeah.
And we'll start off with a new deck. The new deck and $100. The club funds the first $100. So next week it'll be $100 prize available.
So if you want to have a ticket in the pot and have a chance to win that, get your check off to Mike so he can, and don't buy just one ticket. Give him $5 or $10. Buy several tickets and put it in there. Okay.
There again.
Pardon?
I've got tickets in there again. This Carolyn.
Good. Okay. Okay, as usual, here are my charts. And they're not getting any better. And so obviously we're not meeting in person yet. We did talk last night. The vaccinations are coming. I've gone online and put my name in because I think I'm in the second group. Once we have a point, maybe in March, where a lot of our Rotarians have already been vaccinated, we'll be able to look at meeting in person with a little bit more positivity. So hopefully that's moving, you know, in the next month or so, we'll be able to do that. Just depends on how quickly they get the vaccines rolled out. So we're now going to go to Jack Freeze, who's going to tell us a little bit about Jack and also introduce Kyden Creekpaum, who is our speaker for today, which in case you all didn't know, excuse me, I did not know, he's a former honorary Sunriser because he used to play the piano when we met over at the Fountains on Lewis. And he was, I think he was still in high school, maybe college, playing the piano at our sunrise meetings. So Jack, I'll give it to you and you can take over.
And good morning again. A quick tip of the hat to our beloved Don Walker, who's attending Rotary Eternal this morning. And a pleasure to have Kyden with us. When you think of Kyden, first with Sunrise, you think of Tom Clark. And Tom had more enthusiasm than 9 rubber balls on a hot plate. Tom used to virtually rush to the podium as if he had just thought of being there, when in truth he was carefully scripted and carefully prepared. He was terrific. And yes, one given Wednesday, we appeared, and here was this good-looking young guy playing the piano, playing Rotary songs, popular music, great big smile, added magic to the meetings. It went on and on. Kyden doesn't know this, but he was secretly known as Crazy Fingers. So that was his first visit, dozens of them happily. Then he spoke to us a few years ago, if memory serves, about international law. And I'm going to have some questions for him on that. We have, for what it's worth, well, let's get rid of me. Barbara's husband gave me my 60th year certificate in the Oklahoma Bar Association a couple of years ago when he was state bar president. People keep asking me my age. I don't give it, but I attended an antique auction the other day and people were bidding on me. Anyhow, I was in an elevator at the courthouse recently and somebody said, Freeze, you've got the lowest bar number in the elevator. Another lawyer said, in the whole damn courthouse. How do you answer that? I said, how about a group hug? I am happily married to one of the world's wonderful women, Patty Freeze. Have 2 sons, John Jr. in real estate management, and Brian, an architect. No grandchildren, can't even adopt any. So my grandchildren come through Rotary. I've learned to say the word retire without stuttering, but you know, around the corner each week or each month is just one more fascinating question, one more challenge, one more problem needing a solution. And so I'm still romanced by the practice of law and honored to serve the public, and I mean every word of that. On to Kyden. After being schooled in Rotary, the Smile School, he graduated in the year 2000 from Edison and was valedictorian, was distinguished himself in many ways, and then attended the University of Oklahoma. Just a second. I went on his political site, by the way, and I encourage you to do that if you really want to get a good look at Kyden Creekpaum. We'll get back to that in a minute. At the University of Oklahoma, he received a bachelor's in political science and also in music piano performance. His activities included the Crimson Club, president of the leadership class, Pi Kappa Phi, pride of the marching band, university choir, honors college, a journey to China, and many other activities. After that, looking for somebody who could bestow more degrees, Kyden went on to Georgetown, the famous Georgetown University, where he received his law degree, his JD, and was active in the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, Young Professionals in Foreign Policy, American Criminal Law Review, an article editor, the Annual Review of White Collar Crime. Then on to Paris, where he received, excuse me, a Master's of Economics. Do I have that right, Kyden? From the University
Business.
of Paris.
Close enough. That's great.
An additional degree in international arbitration from Sciences Po. He then affiliated with a multinational firm with offices in Paris and New York, and dealt with international crime. A quick aside, as an arch conservative, that's me, and I think Kyden will become one if we just nourish him correctly. I've been flabbergasted that American companies in competing overseas cannot do that which I think is always expected. The mordida, the bakshish, the little money that lubricates things. And Kyden spoke to us here at Sunrise on that several years ago. So he's been deeply involved in studying that and representing American companies. And I hope he'll tell us what he found, how it's looking, where it's going now. He maintained his music overseas and somehow lured a lovely young lady lawyer to attend a conference. What a rotten way to seduce somebody. So there he is on the concert stage with his wife-to-be in the front row. That's a lovely scene. They married. They've had 2 daughters until last week, and a 3rd daughter has just joined the clan. For some reasons, which I hope he will explain, he gave up the international scene, possibly indigestion with the French food, and returned to Tulsa. And I hope you'll tell us about that, because that could be interesting. Back to the home scene. His father was a career educator, a high school principal, and his mother a professional teacher. He's associated with attorney Fred Dorward. Let's talk about Fred Dorward. Fred went to Harvard, and Fred is an intimate friend of George Kaiser. And there's a rumor downtown that Kyden is being groomed to replace Fred in the care and feeding of George Kaiser. That would be a big assignment. But at any rate, Fred is an excellent attorney, very creative, very bright, and surrounds himself with good lawyers. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a distinct pleasure to have, whoops, we forgot the most important thing. So after these attainments and these preparations, Kyden offered himself in public service to us Tulsa citizens and ran for state senate in District 35. Kind of interesting. he had two primary opponents, one of whom, thinking of name recognition, was Linda Morrissey. Kyden did well. I hope you've got a tough hide, brother, and you do not take the results of the campaign as a personal rebuff. 100 years ago, I ran for the state legislature while still a senior in law school. Missed by 103 votes. Oklahoma was saved, but didn't have the time or the resources to keep at it. So Kyden, I hope you do keep at it, because what you've done is promise to share a portion of your life and your talent and your skills with your own community and your fellow citizens. So it's a distinct pleasure to introduce our friend Kyden, a Rotarian. Welcome, speak to us.
Wow, thank you. That was an incredible introduction. It's so good to be with everybody. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to 2021. Jack, I've never had a kinder introduction. Thank you. Most of my background I was already intimately familiar with, not surprisingly, but I have never heard the rumor that, well, one, I've never heard my old nickname. I think you said Magic Fingers or something like that. That was new. And I have never heard the rumor that I'm being groomed to replace Fred Dorward. That is incredibly flattering. But honestly, that's the first time I've heard that one. So thank you for that. But yes, what an introduction. My goodness. And it's an honor to be with you all. I thought when I was asked to speak, there was a really good chance I'd be coming to you as a brand new state senator. And I am immensely flattered that you still are having me, even though I lost ultimately, won the primary, lost the runoff. And now I'm just an ordinary guy again. So thanks for having me back. Yes, I started playing piano, I believe my freshman year of high school. It was always in high school. I was a student at Edison, and we were meeting down at the Fountains restaurant, and that was so much fun. I was about a 14 or 15-year-old kid, and I remember thinking, wait a minute, free breakfast? Oh, I'm in. So such great memories, and it's, boy, I miss a lot of folks like Don Walker and Tom Clark, but it is so gratifying to see so many familiar faces and names like Orr and Grog and Bippy and Steve Kerr and Andy, and I better not, Don Wasson, I better not start naming people because I'll leave somebody out, but it's so many great friends that I made so long ago. So thank you all for having me back. And I can talk about several things and maybe just take a few questions here in a minute, but I will fill in some gaps because my trajectory has been pretty unusual. And starting with going to work in Paris in international anti-corruption law, I think it was about 10 years ago that I spoke to the club about that when I was early in my career. And just in a nutshell, out of law school, I took a job with a law firm. Hughes, Hubbard & Reed is the name of the law firm. And they've got offices around the world. But I started in the DC office and thought I'd be there a couple of years before coming home. That was kind of my big plan, pay down some law school loans, do the big law firm experience and come home. My plan was always to come back to Tulsa. And I only lasted in DC a couple of months, literally, before I was asked to go to the Paris office on a Tuesday. I mean, hey, can you go to Paris on Tuesday for just a month to help with a new client? And that month turned into 10 years. Totally unforeseeable and unforeseen by me. I kept paying rent on my apartment for a whole year as an idiot, thinking I was going to come back to DC every month, and every month it would get extended. So it was an unusual way to get sent abroad and get stuck somewhere. There are worse places to get stuck. And I'm so blessed in the work I got to do. I feel so proud of the work we did, investigating bribery, corruption, and money laundering all over the world. Spent time basically on 6 continents, never went to Antarctica for any reason, but Africa, Asia, Russia, China, you name it, investigating bribery. And I should clarify, about half the time was prospective, keeping people out of trouble. We call that due diligence, trying to prevent problems. But about half of my career in that field was true investigative work. So backwards looking, did something bad happen? If it did, what happened? Who did it? What do we do about it? How do we fix it? Who needs to be punished if necessary? That sort of thing. Always working for big companies. So technically on the defense side, but that's a little misleading too, because in that line of work, it's sort of it's a gray zone because the company usually hires you to investigate itself. So we were often not defending anybody in front of the government. We were investigating and finding out what happened. So I love that work. It was fascinating. I'm very proud of the fact that I worked on 3 of the 10 largest matters in history. My personal work directly led to one penalty of $300 million for, and that was the fine, that was the penalty paid for corruption in Brazil. Most of my career was oil and gas. And so a lot of time spent with oil and gas companies in their offices all over the place. But my last 2 years, I was devoted entirely to aerospace and defense. So there's 2 companies in the world that make big airplanes. And one's in America, Boeing, right? The big Boeing company. And the other is in Europe. It's called Airbus. So my last 2 years, I was embedded and working nonstop with Airbus, investigating their conduct over the years. And that became the largest corruption settlement about 1 year ago this month. That information all became public. What I did my last 2 years before returning home finally became partly, in small part, became public information when Airbus paid a small fine of $3 billion with a B dollars for their conduct over the course of a number of years. So that was a massive and sprawling investigation involving me and lots of other people. I was one of the leaders of a very large team of lawyers working on that matter. So all that has to do with bribery and corruption around the world. And I can talk about some of that if anyone has questions, but that's what I was doing those years in France. And the reason I got sent to France specifically is because my firm had clients that were French clients, and it made sense to have some of us over there for a while. And so, like I said, I never saw that coming. I would have done more than take French at Edison High School. Had I known I'd live in Paris for 10 years. But you know how to make God laugh. You tell him your plans. So got sent to France. And yes, I met my wife after I'd been there about a year when I gave an all Chopin piano recital, a piano concert at the American Cathedral of Paris. And she showed up, sat in the front row. And she had been a lawyer, actually a law student intern several years earlier at my firm before I got sent there to France. So we never met at work, but had many mutual friends because of that. And the rest is history. We do have 3 daughters. The newest is a newborn, so that's very exciting. I'm a girl dad. Anyway, that part of my life, as I mentioned, I always wanted to come home. I never intended to stay in DC or elsewhere in France, as wonderful as France is for me, many reasons. I stayed away from Tulsa about 7 or 8 years longer than I expected because I was having so much fun and really proud of the work I was doing. But you reach a point, and for me, it was about my 35th birthday when I said, what am I doing long term? Because I was in a great place where I could have stayed forever, become counsel or partner at that firm. And that's a dream for a lot of people. It just wasn't ever really my dream. And so I started looking around, how do I get back home? And I stayed away long enough that it was a little bit challenging. So I talked to all the big law firms in Oklahoma. There's not that many that are big. And, the reception was very similar, interested in me, but my background was so strange, so weird. The work I did was such an unusual niche practice. The response was, well, that's impressive, but what are you going to do here? And so I faced that frequently, and I was in talks with one of the biggest firms in Oklahoma to come back. They really wanted me in Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma is home, but Tulsa is really, really home. And I grew up here in Tulsa, of course, although I didn't have a lot of lawyers in my family or anything. I thought I knew, that the big firms would be the place where I was most likely to land. Who could take a chance on a guy like me to integrate me and pay me for a little while they figure out what I can do in Oklahoma. And 2 different people, one at one of those other big firms, and then another friend in town, both recommended Fred Dorwart, and who I didn't know and hadn't heard of. And so once I actually called him and sent him my resume, things happened very, very quickly. And I learned that, we have a very unusual firm. It's smaller than the big firms. We have about 50 people total, I think 35 or 40 lawyers. So in Oklahoma, that's a good mid-sized firm, but we do a lot of international work, a lot of very sophisticated nationwide work. And there's a lot of folks that are former partners from very big firms elsewhere who come to town to work with this very unusual collection of attorneys who work together. And it's a wonderful place to be. I love it. We're in the old City Hall downtown 4th in Cincinnati. It is true that we do, some of our big clients are companies owned by George Kaiser, so that is true. We have other clients too. So I do work for clients that have nothing to do with George Kaiser, and I do some work for Bank of Oklahoma or some other clients that are ultimately owned by or in part and wholly by Mr. Kaiser. So that is true. I've never met George Kaiser yet, but I've seen him on TV. So it's a wonderful place to work. Some really incredible people work there. And Fred is one of the most generous and civic-minded people I know. Our firm gives probably 10% of our time is pro bono time, which is unheard of, just unheard of proportion. And oh, hi, come over here. Come here. I have a 3-year-old yesterday and a 4-year-old today who's about to go off to preschool, and it's her birthday today. So happy birthday, sweetheart. 4-year-old birthday. Everyone's waving and saying hi. Oh, everyone, you made her day. Thank you. All right, have a great day at school. Sorry for the unexpected interruption. So where was I? Oh, Fred. So we do a lot of pro bono work in the community, and I love being so involved. So for example, I serve as general counsel for the River Parks Authority in Tulsa, and we do that all for free, of course. And I love, part of my work is sometimes involves things, far away internationally still, helping several companies with international compliance, but then I get to work on Turkey Mountain master plan and the River Parks trail system here in Tulsa, all the legal issues that come up just every day with them. So I love that. And if anyone has questions about, the pedestrian bridge or the new dam or the Turkey Mountain master plan and things that we'll start seeing soon, happy to entertain those questions. Also volunteer as general counsel myself for Visit Tulsa Regional Tourism. So the Chamber of Commerce's tourism branch, which helps attract large events to Tulsa and big things like BMX moving their national headquarters and national track to Tulsa. They're building that right now. That's a huge coup for Tulsa. Tulsa Landing Ironman. Worked on that project last year. A real coup for Tulsa. It was postponed this year, like everything else, because of COVID, but it will start next year, having an Ironman race in Tulsa. That's a big, big deal. By the way, trivia questions that we'll all be hearing in decades to come. Things like, when was the 2020 Tokyo Olympics? Oh yeah, 2021. When was the 2020 Tulsa Ironman? Oh yeah, 2021. That's right. When was the 2020 in New Zealand? That's the World Cup of Cricket. Well, the New Zealand 2020 was actually in 2021 in India, of course it was, but they're still calling it the New Zealand 2020. It'll just be in India in 2021. So anyway, the world is a very confusing place, thanks to COVID. So back to some of the work I do as pro bono counsel for River Parks of Tulsa and Visit Tulsa. I love the fact that we volunteer so much of our time helping nonprofits and the community. And that is Fred's generosity, because he pays us to do that work, and he just eats the cost himself, which is amazing, amazing. So that's my background in a nutshell. The time in France, working on some very the largest corruption investigations in history, and then coming home the last few years. And then I woke up one day and said, wait a minute, my home state Senate district where I grew up, spent my entire childhood, schools, churches, my parents still lived there. And obviously within the district I live in now, or I couldn't have run, the state Senate district is coming open because of something we have now, we didn't have when I was a kid, called term limits. So open seat. And that's when you got to step back if you're at all interested in stepping forward and serving and say, well, wait a minute, that's the best opportunity to jump in is if there's an open seat. So I got started really early because I know if you're not rich or famous, and I'm neither, you got to work really hard and start early. So I started in March of 2019. I announced on the 15th of March, I raised $30,000 in 2 weeks. And by the end of it, I raised $300,000 to run for state Senate. It's just a Herculean undertaking. And now I have so much respect for anyone who's ever run for office. If you really do it. I mean, some people throw their name out there and then don't really do anything. But if you're running, if you're working hard, it's every day, a grueling marathon. And the stress. Who did I call and beg for money today? How many voters did I call today? How many doors did I knock on today? How many dollars did I raise today? And every single quarter is another deadline where the whole world's going to see how successful or you were at fundraising, and that has to do with how strong is your campaign and how much more support can you attract. It is a lot of stress. So as much as it's a gut punch to lose, because I'm competitive and hurts to lose, at the same time, it's like the old hymn that I sang in church growing up. Burdens are lifted, although that's burdens are lifted at Calvary, but burdens were lifted on election night because suddenly my life got a lot easier and less stressful and a lot more time to spend with the kids, which I've really appreciated. So I was excited about the chance to serve. I think I would have done a good job and I would have enjoyed it. But it's certainly, there's a silver lining, which is that my life is easier and probably I'm better off in many ways, although I was certainly excited and working my tail off to win that election. But as I said, I have a whole new respect for anyone who really jumps in the arena. It's a big myth, right, that we as voters choose our leaders. Voters don't choose our leaders. The leaders choose themselves first, because you got to volunteer, you got to raise your hand and run. And without that, no one can vote for you. And so in the first instance, our leaders have to choose themselves by stepping forward, putting their neck on the guillotine, putting yourself out there for this very public process where you will either succeed or fail and flounder all in public. And then, most people are nice. I knocked on well over 8,000 doors personally. I went out almost every day for a year and a half. My dad was my driver most days, rain or shine, unless there was lightning or hail. And I knocked doors until it got dark, 5 days a week, most Saturdays and a lot of Sundays, knocking doors, meeting voters, which I really enjoyed. 99% of people are really nice. They're the ones who I was yelled at a few times. There's some kind of funny stories because there's a few weirdos out there, but it's a grueling process. I'm glad I did it. And no regrets, because I put it all on the line. I did my very, very best, and it didn't come through that time. But anyway, many of you I know were in my districts. I knocked on some of your doors, and it was really quite a marathon. And thank you for your support. So anyhow, that was the state Senate race. So for me, the primary was in June, where I won a three-way race. And as Jack mentioned, we had a former judge jump in really at the last minute. So the other lady and I had been running for a year, basically, at that point. And on Friday of the filing deadline, Judge Morrissey threw her name in too. And that probably did kind of play the spoiler. I ended up with 45% of the vote in the first round. So you need 50 to win without a runoff. And runoffs are so fickle. And so then I barely lost that runoff. And it's just interesting to analyze it. I mean, there were more than 1,000 people who were totally different voters than in the primary. So it's different people show up, different issues, and that corresponded with a mayor's race, which changes things. And there were a few city council races within my district, and that changes turnout. And it's hard to predict how those runoffs will go. Very fickle business. Anyway, enough about politics. I would love to answer any questions, and I will just stop talking there. Would anyone like to ask me anything?
So in the chat, there are a few questions. One says, hold on, now it's moving. Do you have any stories about Frank Abganale? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Catch Me If You Can guy. I've never met him in person. I highly recommend everyone watch the movie. I don't have any stories about him. I never pretended to be an airline pilot. I never flew the plane. I put myself in business class.
Got it.
If you know the movie, he was a legendary Tulsa native, or lived here for a while. And in the 60s, where I think it was probably easier to get away with things without so many computers, he pretended to be several things, including airline pilots and I think police officers, and had quite a life as a con man in a way, and assuming different identities. No, and in my work as an anti-corruption investigator, I never had to go undercover or anything like that, of that sort. The investigative work was always more, sometimes it's not very sexy. It's copying people's computers and reading all their emails and reconstructing timelines of events following the money, and finding those needle in a haystack emails that make people squirm in an interview, where you really nail them to the wall and say, well, really, are you sure that's your version of the story? Because here, 3 years ago, you wrote this email that really doesn't seem to say that. So, and I've conducted hundreds of interviews myself, and sometimes you know what you're walking into, and sometimes it's a total surprise. There was one time I was in a South Asian country, and I was interviewing a guy who I didn't particularly suspect of wrongdoing, although I had one email that I thought was a little odd, but if the guy was halfway savvy, there were plenty of ways to explain it, and I almost didn't ask him about it. But then I did. The interview was just percolating along. I said, well, you just ask him about this email. And he got super nervous and then unspooled this incredible kickback scheme that he was participating in because he was so nervous. He thought I knew everything and I didn't know anything. I was just playing like, I think the old detective on TV was Columbo. He always played dumb. That was his savvy technique, was to always play dumb and then get people to talk a lot. And I found that to be a useful technique in interviews. Ask a lot of questions where I already know the answer. Just get people talking. So anyway, sorry, that's a roundabout answer. I never met Frank Abernathy. I'd love to. He sounds like a fascinating guy. What other questions do we have?
All right. It says, well, first of all, Carolyn McGay wants to tell you that you came to her door and asked for a vote and you got it. So
thank you.
She remembers that. It looks like you traveled worldwide. Besides Paris, what area did you enjoy the most or least?
Most, well, European destinations are just nice and comfortable. There are some, African destinations can really be unpleasant sometimes and relatively unsafe. I've been to some relatively unsafe places. Had my car checked for bombs, that sort of thing. So, I like to eat well, and so when you're in places where the food's crummy, it's no fun. I would say some. Well, I don't want to dog on any countries in particular.
What did you enjoy the most?
Yeah, the most. For example, those trips I spent several weeks at a time in Rome. That's a real hardship posting. I spent several months. Actually, this is a more interesting answer, I suppose. I spent one time on one visit 4 months solid in Dubai. And Dubai is in the Middle East is a fascinating place. Dubai is a fascinating place. Imagine, if you've never been there, imagine Las Vegas without the gambling. You've got the nicest hotels, the nicest restaurants in the world. It's this very artificial place built in the desert out of nothing in the last 30 years. And it's really, it's a bizarre mixture of confluences and factors, but I found it really interesting and fascinating.
Great. All right. Jim Milburn would like you to come back to Sunrise and be our pianist sometime.
Would love
in
that.
Zoom, you could do Zoom or in person. So, and then let's see, Don Wasson is asking, many of us are inundated with rumors of politicians who are unethical. What experiences do you have?
Well, thank you, Don. Experiences. I have not experienced any politician being unethical to me, and I think I hope in my own run I was not unethical. So personally experiences, I hope none. That's interesting. Let me just answer that in a couple ways. One, my work in the corruption field was all about foreign corruption of public officials. So have I experienced in foreign countries public officials taking bribes? Yes, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. The investigations that I've done, yes. But I think the question might be thinking about our American political context and crazy email rumors that go around and conspiracy theories and things like that. And I don't have a lot of insight more than you all in terms of what has happened in America. My professional work in the bribery field was always about enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA. That is our American law that makes paying bribes abroad illegal. That comes out of the Watergate era. And in all the Nixon Watergate hearings, one of the many things that came out was that big companies were, along with slush funds to President Nixon, all that sort of thing, the committee learned that American companies were paying bribes abroad to win contracts and do business. This was sort of shocking to the conscience of Americans at the time. It felt wrong, but it was legal. There was no law against it. And in fact, no country in the world had ever passed a law against paying bribes in foreign countries when you're doing business. And most countries, like America at the time, it was a tax deduction, a business expense. That changed with Watergate. And America passed this law called the FCPA. We were the first country in the world to outlaw paying bribes. And no one followed our lead for 20 years. But in the late 90s, a treaty was passed with a bunch of countries. And by the time 2001 rolls around, a lot of countries had passed almost identical laws. And so the playing field leveled a lot. And this kind of conduct was not really investigated or enforced until somewhere about halfway through the second Bush administration, there mid 2000s. So about the time I came out of law school, this field was exploding in activity, and it has continued to explode. There was talk that President Trump might slow down the enforcement of anti-bribery investigations. That has not happened. It continued to accelerate, bigger and bigger and bigger fines. And it's not just American companies. As I mentioned, a couple of my clients were French companies, and 9 of the 10 largest penalties ever paid are by foreign companies. So it's a remarkable type of concept where we really extend the long arm of American law to companies that are elsewhere. They have to have some U.S. connection, like be traded on the stock exchange or have big U.S. offices. But I know there's a cynical view that it doesn't matter, that it's conduct that has always happened, will always happen, and that's true. There's a human element to it, a human nature element. But I will tell you as well, the fact that this kind of law is enforced, and now it's being enforced by other countries too, we're not the world's lone policeman anymore, it changes corporate behavior. So is it going to eradicate bribery? No, of course not. There's a human nature element to that, but it's kind of like other laws. Are we going to stop murders from happening? No, but I'm still in favor of laws that frown generally upon murder. And so when it comes to corruption, I have personally seen a very significant impact when boards of directors understand they have billion dollar liability. That even gets the attention of the largest companies in the world. There's no company in the world that a $3-4 billion fine plus awful headlines in global press. There's no company for which that does not get their attention. And it's not limited to very large companies, much smaller companies. Helmerich and Payne in Tulsa paid a couple $1 million fine for bribery about 10 years ago and had to revamp their compliance system. So smaller companies are also at risk. I don't want to give the impression that it's all these $1 billion deals, but that's that world that I spent 10 years devoted to. And still, because my expertise is a little bit unusual in the field for the Midwest, for Oklahoma, I'm able to provide companies with advice in that area if they're doing business abroad, because there's lots of things you can do to protect yourself, to try to stay out of trouble. Lots of things the government expects all U.S. companies to do if they're conducting business abroad. And that's sort of something I've spent a long time now immersed in. So that's a long roundabout answer. I hope that's helpful.
No, that is. I think we're going to probably wrap it up. I know there's some other questions in the chat. Sorry to those who I can't get to, but we thank you for being here. Barbara, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Kyden, it's really been interesting to hear you talk about your experiences. We've been looking forward to having you come. We thought maybe you'd come as a senator or representative, but next time maybe.
Thank you.
We used to thank our speakers by giving them a sunrise coffee cup, which I can't hand it to you through the computer. So what we're doing is we're donating, and you're familiar with this, In Polio Now for Rotary. We're making a donation in each speaker's name to In Polio Now to Rotary International. So you'll be getting a notification of that. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate your time. A couple of things I want to end with here. We talked with Gifty last night. We did have an MSNI workday scheduled, I think in January, and we've decided because the COVID numbers are so high, we're going to wait until April or May and see how that goes. So stay tuned for that. It'll be in the fundraiser. And Bill Bowen said, as a reminder, the third Saturday of the month is Jinx Food Bank Day. So remember that. And does anybody have any announcements or anything else they'd like to make before I close?
I was told, and this is Joy and your foundation treasurer, but I was told that there were some people who were approached about the Don Walker Fund and said, I can't do it. I've already spent my charitable contributions for 2020, but I will do it in 2021. And so just a thought that if you're planning on doing that in 2021, if you could let me know so we could have an idea of what kind of funds we're working with when we can make smart decisions. So anyway, I would appreciate that. I think that would just give us more information to know how we're going to use this money to honor Don. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
I would like to thank everyone who participates in the 50-50 drawing.
You should. We should get personal notes. And we did not have a find the error in the fundraiser this week, but we will next week. Steve will put something in there. So you'll have a chance not to win the $100 pop, but to win a $5 Starbucks card. So
There was a spelling error in there.
there was,
Yes, but
but it wasn't on
okay.
purpose. It wasn't on purpose, so it doesn't count. Okay, I'll close with, and I think this is a good Rotarian statement. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So with that, I will close our meeting today. And it's really so good to see you all again. I've missed seeing you the last 2 weeks, believe it or not. So I'm delighted to see everybody. Thanks for dialing in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye all.